Okay, right now, this time that we're in right now, the end, kind of the end of the winter time, it's March, and it's always this beginning of spring, this end of winter, this March time period, always for me has been a time of some, I want to say modest melancholy. I wouldn't call it depression, although I think years ago it was probably a depression, but I've kind of gotten over that. And I think part of that's to do with, the fact that I've been in AA and I started meditating. So I think a lot of that has to do with it. But it's a time when I just kind of feel a heaviness or a feeling of wishing that something were different. But I don't know what different is because today's a great day. I wouldn't say, I'm kind of in a bad mood. And I wouldn't say I'm always in a bad mood, but I just feel off. And the spring blues are not as bad as they used to be, but they're still there. Kind of like this undercurrent in March of this. I got to get through this. It's not something I enjoy. I got to get through it. Now, I've read a Buddhist teacher who's kind of fell out of favor, who said that with an untrained mind, we live most of our lives at the mercy of our moods. And that kind of talked to me because I'm kind of a moody guy. And my wife gets very tired of that. So I've been told. So, but we all have moods and we all have mood swings. And the good news is that we can train our mind to help mitigate some of these moods. And I think I've been able to do that a little bit. Now, we won't get rid of the moods or the mood swings because they're us. They're in us. They're part of us. But we can make the negative impact of some of the mood swings easier to deal with when we practice of training the mind. So what is training the mind? Well, the trained mind embodies living in the moment, the here, the now. The trained mind embodies the four immeasurables of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. The trained mind understands and accepts the three hallmarks of existence: impermanence, dukkha, or suffering, and non-self. And the trained mind responds, whereas the untrained mind kind of reacts to habits. The trained mind tries to develop the intuitive tolerance of the incomprehensibility of all things. Now, I read that years ago. I don't know who wrote it. We're trying to develop, with training our mind, with the intuitive tolerance of the incomprehensibility of all things. And if you do that, your life changes a lot. So how do we get to the trained mind? How do we train the mind? Same way you get to Carnegie Hall. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Now, let me switch gears for just a moment. Now, 30 years ago, I read the book Alaska by James Michener. And I liked his books in part because I was a history buff. I liked history. And his stories were very long, multi-generational stories, rich in historical reference. They pertain to the places and the times that he wrote about. Like, he wrote the book on Alaska, Poland, Hawaii, Texas, Chesapeake. Good books. I remember reading Alaska, and it was like over 1,000 pages, but I just was glued to it. It was a good book. He has a lot of other great stories with historical references. And he was known as a meticulous researcher, and he was easy for me to read. So there was truth there with what he was saying from his research and such. But what he brought out in this novel on Alaska, he writes about the fact that in March, there's a very high suicide rate in the Inuit or in the indigenous population in Alaska, in the far northern part of Alaska, when late February turns into kind of early March. And it starts to bring the promise of spring, yet that's when the suicides were at their height. Now, we all have heard of seasonal affective disorder, SAD, which that's the most prominent in January and February, and it has to do with lack of going outside or lack of sunshine. And we know that sunshine is beneficial to us. We know that it helps produce vitamin D. I have a friend who's an orthopedic surgeon in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and he will not do any surgeries on his patients, the orthopedic surgery on his patients who have elective surgery, I should say, who have a very low vitamin D. He wants to get their vitamin D up because the bones react better when the vitamin D is better. But the promise of spring should bring joy and a well-being. Yet these indigenous peoples, that was the time of the year when the suicides were highest. You had some good weather and you had some bright days, but it also brings this attitude of, I got to get through this, or I can't get through it when the bad weather changed. Now, also in that northern part of Alaska, the days were still short, the nights were still very long, but it was just around the corner, and yet they couldn't get past it. As I wait for the 60-degree day like today, I have to also put up with the dreary, snowy, and cold days that will make up much of early spring. Now, my wife's birthday is the 25th of April, and on numerous occasions over these past 45 years, or 43 years, we've had snow on, before, or just after her birthday, which is April, which is way past snow time as far as I'm concerned. Now, in December, you expect the snow. In fact, you like the snow, in my opinion. Some of us look forward to the snow because it makes the holidays a little bit more cheery. I love a white Christmas. January 3rd, get the hell out. I'm done. I'm done. All right. And then February is a long month. But this melancholy that I seem to experience kind of comes around in March for some reason, when days like today are there, and then days like tomorrow I've got to get through. We still have our 15-degree nights and our 25-degree days, and we have 58-degree days and 40-degree nights. So now we all know that life is not a destination. All of life is a journey. And we're all going to experience this journey with some highs and lows. And these are my lows, I guess, at this time of year. While we're on this journey, we need to experience it just for itself. If all you have is the idea that there's a destination we're supposed to reach, you're going to miss the journey. And I believed there was a destination for me. That destination was, it was an imaginary destination. It was a house, a car, a good car, a family, good job, a cottage on the lake, I've had the idea that there's a place in time in this life where I'll reach a point of calmness, of serenity, tranquility, and the end of the problems that are part of my day-to-day existence. And I have thought that there must be a time and place where I'll be contented and where everything will be easy. That's my imaginary destination. And I'll never fully arrive there. I'm not saying my life won't be better, easier, but there's always going to be highs and lows in the life. In one moment you are in, and then it's the next moment. In one moment you are, and then in the next moment, who knows? Some people call it the big sleep, the dirt blanket, but wrong side of the sod. They're all terms that describe the only certainty in life is that we're going to die. That's the only certainty. Now, our Buddhist philosophy shows us a bit of a different path, however, the path of awareness, an awareness that is right now, right here, and that's all there is. When you fully know that right here, right now is the only time you live and experience life, everything changes, or everything can change, and you have a different outlook or a different perception, a new perception. Maybe it can be called part of right view or right perception. When you come to the understanding that nothing external to your own self can bring you a lasting happiness, you are setting the stage for acceptance and letting go. Now, the Buddha said, be a light unto yourself. Betake yourself to no external refuge. Hold fast the truth. Look not for refuge to anyone besides yourself. Other voices will tell you that you need to do this or need to do that. But the answer on what to do is always internal. Since it's an internal mindset, you need to listen to yourself. And you listen to yourself with the practice of the meditation again and again, consistency. Now, my journey on this path started when I was attempting to find a different way. I don't think I was satisfied or happy. I didn't think the way I was living my life was working. I felt there must be something more. I felt that I had to be happy. I thought it was almost immoral for me to be unhappy with everything I had. I should have been happy and contented. And when I wasn't, there must be something wrong with me. I must be broken. Well, I'm not broken. I'm human. And moods and these changes in these moods are just part of our human existence. But I found with meditation that the here and the now is who I am. Right here, right now. This is who I am. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down, but I'm always here, right now. Now, we all seek happiness and we try to avoid suffering. When you learn to look in the right place, which is right here, your own mind, your own head, the task is made a lot easier. However, and it's a big however, when suffering or dissatisfaction is present, knowing that it's impermanent and you need to get through it can bring a certain feeling of, okay, I've got it, I've got this. I've lost a lot of people in my life, and these people meant a great deal to me. But since I found meditation and since I found this Buddhist path, I don't find it necessary to continually focus on the loss that I've had. I can change my focus to the gratitude that these people, they were in my life, some beautiful people. I had the joy of experiencing their presence for years and years. While they're gone, and while it will always hurt, I also know that good fortune visited me through their presence, and it will never go away. If you don't feel any remorse or pain in the passing of someone, I mean, how tragic would that be? Now, I've always searched for a spiritual path, but I was never blessed with a strong faith in the one God, or any God for that matter. But as a younger person in a Catholic school, I believed in God. But that feeling kind of left me once I graduated high school. Now, it didn't leave me entirely. It just left me mostly. As I grow older, the here and now comes to be the core of my perception, my perspective. By living here and now, I determine the wholesome and the unwholesome, and then I have a chance to act. And the only time I can determine the wholesome and the unwholesome is right now, right here. I know that someday this body will no longer exist. I will no longer be the same after this happens. Maybe I won't even be. I don't have an answer to that. I don't know that. But that brings me back to the first part of this talk where I talk about the feeling of melancholy that seems to affect me every year about this time. Like I said, it's a mood thing. And it's here and now. It's not permanent because I know nothing is permanent. That which is in the nature to arise, is also in the nature to decay. When I experience the melancholy, the understanding that it is temporary provides me with the strength of mind to carry on, to move on to the next moment in time. It will end, but it has to be passed through. It can't be avoided. It can't be gone around or under or over. I can't wish it away, and I can't suppress it, because when I wish it away or try to suppress it, it only gives it strength. I need to face it, go through it, and then move on to the next moment. I came to this Buddhist path because I was unable to get and sustain a certain type of contentment or happiness that I thought I was supposed to possess. The type of happiness and contentment I searched for was always external, outside of myself. Like many, I lived in the when only or the if only time, the only world, if only I had this world, the world of chasing the brass ring, the thinking that everything would be okay if I only had this thing. But this Buddhist path has taught me, this Buddhist path has brought me to myself more than anything else I've ever experienced. I've tried to live in a world as I imagined it should be, and it was never as I imagined it would be. The reality of everything is only in this moment in time. And when I forget this, I only have to bring myself back to the moment. Now, it's the same in our practice. We follow the breath. And when we're distracted, we only have to bring ourselves back to our breath and to the awareness of the breath. It's here and now. This breath is here and now. The in-breath says, here now. And the out-breath says, let it go. You can try that little mantra when you're meditating. It kind of works for me sometimes when on the in-breath, just here now, out-breath, let it go. I don't have many answers. I'm not sure I have any answers. I don't know. I need you guys to tell me the answers. But I do know that in this meditation practice that we do, when I'm here and now, there's a certain lightness of being that I can feel. I don't always feel it, but I would say more often than not, it's there or it's at my disposal. So while tomorrow is going to be snow, cold, I'm going to meditate. And when I meditate, I probably won't mind the snow so much. So thank you.